Hello.
Good morning.
Hi. Hello, everybody. And welcome back to INTEA Breakfasts. It's been a bit of time, and also it's April the 1st. We don't have any jokes for that, but this morning I read one of the municipal members of Riga municipality posted that starting this year, because of the gas situation, Riga will start switching to crypto mining as a means of generating heat and also generating some finance, which is very 21st century and so on. And I totally believed it. Right? I had to read through the comments to understand it's not true, because I genuinely thought that would be a great idea. Like we mine some Bitcoin, and through the heat generated by the miners, we get some heat. Seemed like a great idea. So yeah. Anyhow, so today we are going to talk about MIDAS. MIDAS, as you probably know, is that ancient king who touched anything that turned into gold, anything that he touched. The Midas touch, you touch something, turns into gold. Excellent. Sounds like a great superpower, and it's also an acronym, but we'll explain later. In general, it's a framework for instructional design, right? Let me actually start sharing my screen.
And the history goes that at some point, here at INTEA, me and my colleagues from instructional design, we understood that we have many different frameworks. We have INTEA, we have action mapping, we have some other stuff, but it's all very much, say, narrow purpose. Yeah, INTEA helps you structure the process, but doesn't guarantee result. Action mapping helps you to structure content, but not always useful, because not everything is about actions in the learning we do. So we start to work with it. And first it was not MIDAS, it was something like MLDS something, yeah. And then Sergey chipped in, and we tried to change the words in a way that it's easy to remember, because any good framework has to, like SWOT analysis, like SMART goals, it has to pop up by itself, right?
Yeah, right. So you heard it here first. This is our first presentation of the framework in its current format. We're really looking for some feedback on that, and it's something that we've been using for a long time, but now it has taken on this form that we are ready to share externally, not just use it inside our organization. Before we begin, a couple of household questions. Everyone is on mute for the duration of the meeting. Please find the chat window right now and type plus in that, so that we understand that somebody is listening. And the meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be available on our YouTube channel. The easiest way to find it is just Google YouTube INTEA Learning, and something like this will pop up. All the breakfasts are there. Please feel free to share them with colleagues or competitors, if you will, and enjoy the content that you might have missed in the past. So first of all, as Raivis began to explain, the question is, well, why do we even need a framework or a map like that? Well, right, first of all, there's a number of things that you've named, like INTEA is it's what was INTEA?
INTEA is a process, yeah.
Yes, it's analysis, design, development, implementation, evaluation. Right. So this is how you build a course. It's not about what goes into the course. While action mapping, our absolutely favorite framework, is about how you make the content stick into the course. How do you get rid of the content you don't really need, and how do you make the course useful, right? But it does not touch the process, and it does not touch on a number of important things that make courses work. So there's a lot of things to remember outside of that, and that's why we decided we needed the framework. And the framework is this. Well, you know the acronym already, so let's dive in. So it starts with motivation, right?
Yeah, it starts with motivation. The thing is that with ADDIE again and with action mapping, it does not specify that you need to think about how you will motivate people to do the course. So very kind of in the last 4 or 5 years, with some changes in how people learn and in some habits, rather know how they learn, we understood that we have to sell what we do. E-learning is something you have to sell, so you have to always ask your question how this course will sell itself from the first second you open it, right? So whenever you do a course, it has start from a motivation. We've done a number of breakfasts, I think, on motivation, why and how.
On what we can learn from salespeople and how they sell ideas, in what we can learn from marketing people, how they market ideas, and how we can market courses. So yeah, the idea is that the step number one in any course production, in whether you're preparing not just in e-learning course, but also even a lecture, right? Or you're preparing yourself for a conference. You need to think about motivation. Like, why would people listen to you? Why does this topic sound important to them? And have you specified this importance? Have you connected to them? So that's step number one. You have to motivate your learners or listeners into actually paying attention in all the other steps. And unfortunately, we see with courses which are built in-house, so to say, or by people who have not had enough terrible experiences with courses failing and not getting enough attention, that step is often skipped.
Right, and then we talk about inform, and that step, let's not misinterpret it. It's not that we dump information on people, it's rather we are clever about what kind of information we select. Here again, action mapping is of course an excellent way to separate good information from bad information, so to say. But again, as we said, it's not always helpful because with certain types of courses, there are not so many actions to do. So we'll talk about it later, I think, today, in how, when you use action mapping, when you use other stuff, but this is kind of a next step. Right?
Another useful approach, I think, at this step is what we've talked, I think, in the last breakfast about learning goals.
Yeah.
Rather, you talked about it, I wasn't there. But the idea in that breakfast was that once you define nice, correct, useful learning goals for a course, you can then cross-check your content of the course, the information included into the course, against those goals, and see if, again, there's information that supports those goals, if every goal is supported, and if there is information that doesn't support any of the goals. And that means you have to ask yourself a very, very big why have we included this information in the course at all, right? So the second step in designing a course, after you've thought about motivation, is to think about what information goes in there. What is the essential knowledge that your learners need? Or again, if you're new to designing courses, just think about your next conference and you have to prepare a presentation. So once you've motivated your listeners, what information you want in there. Then it's develop, and it's not the develop from ADDIE, where we talk about course development, actually building slides, creating illustrations, filming videos, programming exercises, and so on. It's about developing the skills of people, about teaching them how to apply that information in real life. And in the most basic form, it's about the exercise, so to say, right? So you explain something to people, and then you teach them to apply this information in their daily job. And as always, it's a course. It's a step that can be missed in a course, right? There's a lot of courses which will motivate you about something and start informing you.
And then check your knowledge.
And then check your knowledge, but will not build this bridge into either developing a specific skill or developing a habit and changing behavior, or simply explaining how that information ties into your daily job. And that will go over the heads of people, and that's a crucial step as well. So you can't miss it. Again, even think about building a presentation for your next conference. Like, have you mentioned how that information helps them, like, tonight? The next one is kind of obvious.
Yeah, the next one is assess. Obvious answer is, we like to test people. I think we mentioned in one of our breakfasts that over testing and very big emphasis on testing is not a very good idea. Because sometimes this development part is much more important. But again, we very often need to assess, and it's not only about quizzes. Depending on the situation, it can be we want to simulate the situation and let people show how they can play it through, and really apply their knowledge. So, but anyways, we have to think about it, and when and how this assessment will happen is also important. It doesn't mean that this is a part of the course. It might be separate on your learning management system, or it might happen 3 months down the road to understand what was the uptake.
It can also happen before the course as well. But we'll dive into this later. We'll spend 10 minutes actually. In the next 10 minutes, we'll explain the actual tools and approaches that you can use to support each of these steps. And final step is support. And support is not about like technical support. Hello, my course isn't loading and I've lost my password and I'm trying to click this and it does not skip to the next page, which is again important. And we've talked about this when we talked about learner experience and building brands and building trust, that, you know, if I buy a product that I trust from a brand that I trust, and I call their hotline and say, okay, that there's a problem with my whatever BMW, and long-term listeners of our podcast will ask, like, Sergey, where's your Volkswagen? Anyhow, so if I call the support line and they're helpful, instead of, you know, being some robot just saying, okay, call us next working day or something, then you know, this is important for my experience, and that's important for learning as well. But in this case, we talk about supporting learners after the course is finished in their daily work life or just in their daily life.
Yeah, basically supporting that this knowledge is not lost. If we believe that this is valuable knowledge, then we made the course. So we now have, you know all that curve of how people forget, the forgetting curve, I think it's called. So this is actually the activity.
It's very simple. It starts here and then ends here very, very quickly. That's all you need about the course.
So you don't need to know more than that about it. But this is how do we lift it, or how we maintain it high enough. So, and again, as with Motivate, similar to Motivate, this is what we understood at some point at INTEA, that we are very good at informing, at developing, and assessing. Typically,
and imagine my hand against the slide here. So those steps 2, 3, 4 are what typically is included into an e-learning course or, you know, real life course as well. And then you have to sandwich it into the motivation and support, because otherwise it won't work, right? If you don't motivate people, if you don't sell the idea to them, they will not comprehend anything that you're trying to give them, even if it's an excellent course in all other parts. And if you don't support them in the coming weeks or months or maybe years, in some cases, after the learning event has happened, then they will just forget it before they have a chance to, let's say, develop something into a habit.
But of course it doesn't stop here, and it's a very kind of general 5 steps we have, but we have very different types of courses, right? And it has to be applied a bit differently.
Yes. So outside of like the process or the framework is the same for all learning that we're trying to do. These are steps that should not be forgotten in absolutely any case from the presentation for colleagues that you're making for coming week or for a big curriculum that you're planning to launch in a few months, and it will take weeks for people to go through, but the steps are the same, but the courses are different. So we've defined internally over the years like three main course types, and we use those course types to ask questions to our clients, and it helps us understand your goals, it helps to understand your budget, it helps to understand your ambition with this knowledge. We just say, okay, what level of a course do you want? And it starts at level 1, which is knowledge transfer. Knowledge transfer is the simplest, probably most popular of the courses. It's about informing people. Think about your typical compliance course, where or like something like office safety, where you just need to know that you can't do this and that, and there's 2 types of extinguishers, which is my favorite slide all the time.
Yeah, same goes for product courses as well. I mean, of course, there are sales trainings and skill trainings, but very often we have those product courses that are just transferring knowledge about the product.
Yeah, okay, right. We have this tariff in our communications company, internet provider company. We have this tariff. The tariff works like this. It has this amount of traffic, this amount of cost. Switching it on costs this. Switching to it from other tariffs takes this procedure, and so on. So you just need to know that. The next one is about learning to do something, right? It's about skills. It's about learning to sell a product, or it's about learning to tell a bad customer from a good customer, if we're talking about anti-money laundering. Or it's
it's all the a lot of people's skills fall into this, a lot of giving feedbacks, time management, managing people, and so on.
Wellness, I think, is a popular topic as well.
Again, this is a skill. It's not just I know I have to live like that. It's
it'd be great if I felt less anxious before my work review comes up. And now you know how to do that. Now actually you have to be able to do something. And again, switching, like if we remember the goals thing, right? We have in the goals breakfast, we talked about goals to know something and goals to be able to do something. This is this level. Again, this level, like with goals, we said you don't have to aspire to rise to this level every time. Sometimes just transferring some knowledge to people is enough, and you can trust them to be able to apply that knowledge in their lives and include it. Or maybe you just put a check mark in the checkbox, and you are covered legally against something, and you can move on with more important stuff. But in many cases, you also want people to actually learn to do something and start doing something. And sometimes it won't work, because knowing something and knowing how to do something does not mean you will actually do that, right?
Yeah.
And this is about changing minds.
Yeah, and this is kind of the highest level where in this category, we see courses that are meant to change behaviors, attitude, mindset. I would say a popular one for e-learning especially are the value courses, ethics courses, where we are kind of trying to instill some kind of a new mindset.
Because you can say that we have to be open and caring towards our customers, right? And this is a new policy for us, because before we've been this very, very bureaucratic government organization, and now we have to be very customer centric. Customer centric is very popular word, and it's not about knowing stuff or being able to do stuff. It's about believing in this, and how do you achieve that in e-learning? That's the question. So that's the highest level of courses, right, that you can aspire to. I remember one, we did it for a bank shortly after the 2008 and 9 crisis, right? Where A lot of people have lost their homes to repossession of, the banks took their homes because they couldn't pay their credits. It was a very bad press for banks throughout the region. The banks were viewed as those evil organizations that first oversold you on all the mortgages, and now they are pressuring you into ruining your life, essentially, and so on and so on. And it was not just the feeling that the press generated for likes, but it was also the feeling that people inside the companies also had, because it was the point. I don't know if you remember this, but it was the point where if you met somebody, right, and they asked you, like, what do you do? And you say, I work in a bank. It was like, I'm killing kittens or something like that.
Yeah, there was this time.
terrible bar conversation, and the goal of the course that we were building was to change this perception and explain to people how they why banks are good, and why, if you work at the bank, you're doing a good job and you're useful to the society, and so on. So that's the highest aspiration. So what we'll do in the next 10 minutes that we have left, we'll go through this essentially metrics of motivation, informing, developing, assessing, and supporting, and the information courses, skills courses, and mindset, mind-changing courses. And look at a few things that you can apply to make sure that your course is, let's say, motivational enough. And then they are ranked, so to say, in order of importance for information courses, to skills, to mindsets. In our work life, we have this big spreadsheet with all the steps and all the course types, and it's a metrics, like a real metrics, where everything is listed inside, all the questions you have to ask, all the tools that you can use, and so on. This will be like an abridged version, but if you want to, let's say, sit down and look at the course that's coming up or that you've built before and want to improve with us, we'll happy whip out this spreadsheet and sit down with you to look at it closely. Right now, it's
just to give you an idea and the way of thinking about it.
Yes. So because once you grasp the concept, I hope it all makes sense. Please type a plus in the chat if it makes sense to you, and we have not lost you in 22 minutes so far. Let us know. So okay, let's look at motivation first, right? So things that you might want to use in your course and not skip. First of all, you want to introduce the problem, right? And don't jump to solution. Don't explain how to deal with anti-money laundering or how to deal with money laundering. Explain what money laundering is. Explain why it's bad, because it's not always clear. Well, people evade taxes. That's normal, right? This is why they move from their jurisdiction to ours, because we have lower taxes. Is that not all right?
Yeah, it's not tax evasion, it's tax optimization.
Oh yeah, right.
So there is a distinction. Yeah, but again, problem intro. Again, since you picked up on anti-money laundering, the problem intro actually was a shock slide, where in one course we just started the course by asking people, in your opinion, how much money is being laundered every year? 100 million, 1 billion, 10 billion, or I don't remember the scale, but the scale was a geometric scale. And of course, we shocked people that actually the amount of money being laundered globally is just, it's a big economy.
And you can be very creative about that. Yesterday I was buying a domain for one of the things I'm doing, and I almost paid for it, and then the page asks me, or doesn't ask me, it tells me, like, in big letters, something like 5 million times a year. And I'm like, what 5 million times a year? And then it says, domains get stolen.
Okay.
And do you want to buy a $5 protection plan for your domain not to be stolen? And I'm like, interesting, right? So this is what you want to do with your learners. Self-checking, right? Again, a lot of learners absolutely think that they understand the concept of this topic and so on. Let them self-check, ask them questions, let them see that they have those gaps, and then focus on those gaps, and maybe skip the content they don't need, right? Again, motivate them to pay attention by showing showing them that they actually have to, because it makes them. And my favorite is to throw them off the deep end into some sort of simulation where they have to solve a problem and they will fail. Make it hard. It's all right to make it hard, challenge them and show them that, there's things that they actually don't know.
Yeah.
Next, about the information. Well, first of all, the least you can do with information courses, for example, is to make this structure clear. We've been over this.
Yeah, goal structure. Yeah, and again, that action mapping. As we said, we really love action mapping, but in this info skills mindset, we figured out that action mapping works best for skills, a little bit for knowledge transfer sometimes, but it's not that useful for mindset because you cannot write out every action you have to do with regards to something. Yeah.
What works for mindset better is spaced learning. That means you don't do one course and then forget about it, but you design your program so if in ways where information is given to you over time and you're giving tasks.
I call it a campaign. Yeah. So you have a learning campaign. Yeah. To change values, you probably need at least a month campaign with bits and pieces, right?
And then you can also include a little bit of social interaction, making sure that people actually interact with each other over this topic, right? You can give them tasks to go and find a colleague and write out his opinion on something and then compare notes or something like that.
Group work. Yeah.
And of course, blended approach, we've already touched on this. You have to get out of e-learn space sometimes and go out into the real world, talk to real people, have some physical or mental interaction with people to start believing into something, to really change your habits and so on. And this is, again, it's ranked from just info courses to mind-changing or mind-blowing courses. This is where you kind of want to go. With the development, right? On the information level, you can start with just simple things, right? To make sure the information sticks, just give people, fact sheets or to-dos like do this, don't do this, and that's it, right? If we're talking compliance, do this, don't do this. It's okay. It already kind of ties in the information, which can be very much legalese in its form. Into their daily jobs. That's it. Just build
remember our many years ago we worked together with Sergey in telephone sales, and remember those sheets of papers we had on our walls?
Yes.
Saying the client objections about price, too expensive. You have 5-6 ideas what to do, or we want different payment structure, 3-5 ideas how to react to that. So those things help because they will develop the person not within the course, but after that, when they will start applying those.
Yeah, that's actually job aids, right? That's any material that helps them navigate their job.
Yeah,
you can include it as part of the information and trust that they will use that and develop their skills after the course. That's not your job anymore. You've helped them with, creating, that's actually an excellent example of giving them common answers to common problems right in front of their eyes. Right, simulations, right? If you want to develop skills, simulate their work life, can be anything. You can simulate conversations with clients, you can simulate operating a coffee machine, you can simulate a software that they will have to use. Pretty much anything can be simulated. The question is, the cost. Does it make sense, right? Is it easy enough to do, and so on. Role play is where it can be digital, of course, right? With, again, like talk to a virtual customer or something, but this is where you can actually start getting out of the e-learn into a more blended approach, like we said, because changing minds involves talking to real people and living through certain situations. And then there's a ton of habit building tools, things that will send you little marketing campaigns and so on, things that
remind you
about things.
Yeah.
Last thing, and this is something that we've all needed in the past few weeks, is the anti-doom scrolling bot, right? It's essentially a little reminder in Telegram that tells you, hey, are you doom scrolling again? Just stop it. Doom scrolling is when you read the terrible news all the time and you just can't stop it.
It has become a problem.
It has, yes, and stuff like that will transfer you from just informing into building something. Assessment, right? The assessment is the kind of obvious part for the information course. Just give them some information and check them that they actually read this.
Yeah, nothing bad about it.
Works every time. Yeah. I think we've had this breakfast like quite a long time ago about good quiz questions, and how to avoid checking useless facts and checking understanding of those facts rather. So you can circle back to that. So knowledge checks is an obvious approach, but it's not easy to do. Again, simulations can be launched in assessment mode, right? So it's not just play through this software and pretend that you are inputting a new contract or something, but we'll actually assess on how quickly you can do that, or if you make any mistakes in the process and so on. Another way to assess is look at the real life results, right? We've done a sales skills course, and now we'll look at your sales results.
Yeah, some of our clients actually do that. They validate training results with sales results later on to draw conclusions because it might be insightful.
Again, we touched upon this in the goals course, where goals breakfast, where we talked about what real life aspects you can look at to evaluate something, because with sales it's kind of an obvious, it's our favorite go-to example, but you can also look at the number of complaints, at stuff like that.
Also number of calls. My favorite example for compliance people, if you will start getting more calls after your compliance courses, it means you
as an expert, you mean?
As an expert, it means that they've got interested in the topic. Let's say anti-money laundering, how many times they escalate client cases. It goes up, it means they have uptaken some knowledge to do that.
Exactly. You can also go easy about this and let people reflect, on things, especially when changing minds. You don't have to be very didactic about this, very top down. You just can ask them, well, what do you think? Like tonight, when you go home from work, just try to think about this one question of how would you feel? That's it. That's enough to plant a seed into people's minds. And then, of course, you can just bring in the big guns, bring in the managers, and just sit down with people and talk about what changed and so on. Because management involvement is key in changing behaviors, instilling values, and so on. Finally, support. Right? We're a couple of minutes overboard, but that's the last slide essentially. Right? So what can you do to make sure that the course is not forgotten the next day or the next week? Again, job aids. Put something on their wall so it's there forever after the course. Create an email campaign that will email them, on a weekly or a monthly basis for the next year, and ask and remind them about stuff, especially if it's not about information, of course, but changing behaviors. You can also text message them if you're using a corporate chat like Microsoft Teams. You can set up bots to do that, kind of non-intrusively. Again, habit building tools that will remind you and track your progress and so on, especially useful in wellness courses, right? Time management stuff, stress management stuff like that. And you can also create work groups. So now that we're all through this course, let's meet every 2 weeks for a half hour on a Friday morning, and chat about this problem, and bring something new to the table every time, and so on. And this is how we become better salespeople, better lawyers, better caretakers, and
better managers,
of course, better employees,
better employee work group. That's a good one. So again, you see they're all listed in a sense that they are a little bit follow from information to skills to mindset. So the deeper you go, the more costly it is. But again, mindset changing cannot be very cheap, right?
No,
and easy.
it can't. So I hope that was useful. On a scale from yes to very useful, please let us know in the chat if you like this, if you want us to maybe go deeper into this direction, or if you have any other topic in mind. Thank you for being with us. If you think back to this presentation, or you rewatch it on YouTube later, you'll see that it's actually structured according to MIDAS, and feel free to grab this concept and use it. We will probably work with it a little bit more to bring it to you as a ready-made tool. That is our ambition with this. So far, we just have a very cool name for it, and this presentation, and some work documentation that we use in-house. Again, follow us on your favorite social network: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're everywhere, and we post stuff from daily life and useful stuff and whatnot. Find us on YouTube, or just email me on Raivis if you have any questions, if you want to chat. With this, thank you very much. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Stay tuned for our announcements, and goodbye. Say goodbye.
Goodbye. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm working in the chat here.
Okay, so I will not end this meeting so far, but I'll just switch off. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.